the person that ordained you a pastor has the right to call you a failure because you are working under his organization. They plan to plant 10,000 churches by the Winners Chapel in Nigeria, and we are going to be doing a deep analysis on that. Let's go on with the video. Now, in my quest to understand the genesis of this whole idea of planting 10,000 churches in Nigeria alone, let's not forget the fact that in 2019, Papa Oyedepo received a revelation from God to plant 5,000 churches in Nigeria alone, and he achieved it within 5 months, I think, according to the articles I've read about it. And right now, in 2020, he received the revelation again to plant 10,000 churches in Nigeria alone, mainly in the rural areas. I read an article on, because I do my research. I take my time to do my research, okay? Please clap for me for that if you like clapping anyway. But listen, I found this article by Outreach Magazine. Please, I will link it in the description section. Please do watch it. It goes into the detail of this whole how to plant 10,000 churches, which you may not really understand as someone that is outside the Winners Chapel. But in that article, David Oyedepo is described as a businessman with a PhD in human development. Some of you think that some people that have doctorate degrees, that they all of them have Doctor of Divinity. I beg, sometimes you have to do research on your pastors. In that video I made about Mr. P exposing the fact that he didn't really I don't think he really earned that particular honorary doctorate degree, and how I think he bought it. We saw Prophet Iginla getting his doctorate or honorary doctorate degree of divinity from the same school in Benin. Let me not talk about that. Let's talk about this one. Now, aside the fact that he has a PhD in human development, which may not really make sense to this, it will make sense to you when I get to analyze his statement with regards to the sack of these pastors. If you're smart enough, you may not really want to watch that video because it really makes sense to you right now. And I'm going to be mentioning a name that you may know if you are part of Winners Church. This man here, Steve Ogar. Okay, this is the son-in-law and special personal assistant to the bishop himself. I don't know if he is still right now, but as at the post of this particular article which I read, he had an interview, or he was quoted to have said some things that actually makes you or would make you understand how the church is run. Because some of you are just members and you don't know what goes on in the church. That's why we have people that are members and workers. Then from workers, we now have pastors. But we'll go into that. Now, the writer of the article, Warren Bird, as you can see him right here, told a story of his experience when he met a lead pastor of the church in Kenya. And while speaking to him, he received a text of the message he should preach on a Sunday and the topic of what that message should be. One thing you have to know right now is that, according to Steve Ogar here right now, the church itself is very much standardized. Just like how we have in the Catholic Church. I'm a Catholic, okay? So some of you that think like, hey. Just like how we have in the Catholic Church, whereby in the whole year, like before the year even starts, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, all the scriptures that are going to be read from the daily readings to the Sunday readings are already stated clear. But the only difference between these and what happens in many Pentecostal circles, like what he stated right here or what Warren Bird experienced, is that a Catholic priest would have to read the readings that are for the day, just like every member is privy to it, and decide what topic based on his own revelation or what ideas or what he wants to preach based on the readings that are for the day standard. But this is a case whereby you are a lead pastor and you are given the scripture you have to preach on a Sunday, and at the same time you are given the topic of what it should be about and also told what to emphasize on. Please read that article. It will help you understand things a lot, because I don't speak from my mind, I speak from research. If you understand this, you see that many of the churches we have, many Pentecostal churches, or would I say many organizations as Papa would call it, have a standard of how they run. Now, one thing I also found out in my research is that, according to Steve Ogar, when it comes to the running of their ministries, their pastoral ministries, those they roll out as pastors, you must have passed the 3 years of their Bible school, which is acclaimed in the world to be one of the shortest way to become a pastor. And I found it still on their website. It is there with different names, different levels. And I saw that it's a 3-day program. Like, does it take 3 days to become a pastor? That now makes me wonder. You see, for you to become a Catholic priest, I'm not saying this in defense of the Catholic Church or whatever. I analyze everything logically. I'm a Christian, okay? But for you to become a Catholic priest, it takes you not less than 8 amazing, wonderful years before you even wear that robe. I ran away from the seminary. Those of you who know me know that I went to the minor seminary first. When it now got to me going to major seminary, my mom was like, George, Father. I was like, no, mommy, I'm going to university. I went to Ghana to have my first degree, even though I have my master's degree right now. But you have to understand that I wasn't called into priesthood, so I didn't want to go to impress my mom. Okay? But my mom really wanted me to be a priest. If it takes you 3 days of doing Bible study or learning a couple of things, which would have to be the core beliefs of the organization, I would believe, for you to become a pastor, according to Steve Auger right here, based on this article, you must go through these 3 tiers for you to become a pastor of the a pastor of the Winners Chapel. And according to him, he says that future pastors, from when that article was written, must have to come from this particular stage. Before, pastors could come from, but right now the pastor has to be groomed from the church. So look at my simple analogy right here. Maybe it takes you 3 days to become a pastor. Wonderful. And right now, they have many people that come and get enrolled and trained in this particular line to become pastors. Half baked or not, I don't know. You see, one thing is you being called, having the unction from God that you want to be a pastor, being called, and you decide to school yourself or be schooled under a particular organization to become a pastor under that organization. Come on, Ibiyome, where did he come from? Abi, he was under Oyedepo before he now started his own. I don't know if you are getting the logic, but I hope not to spill a lot of things that I will be looking at in the next video. Now look at this logic with me. Just like the government of Nigeria every year passes out corpus, and you will hear someone say that the federal government cannot employ all the youths or all those that it passes out or something. That means we also have to be innovative ourselves. Imagine you going through this particular 3 tiers of Bible school or 3-day Bible school, which I think you may pay for. I don't know if it's free. And you come out as an ordained pastor, ordained by your bishop or ordained by whoever. I don't know how their ordination as pastors go in there, but at least you get the title of a pastor after going through this. That have come. The person that ordained you a pastor has the right to call you a failure because you are working under his organization. So some of you will say, does he have a right? He has every right to call them a failure. Why? Because you have been brought into my organization, you have been schooled in my organization, and you have been passed out in my organization. Why wouldn't I call you a failure if you are not doing what you are supposed or expected to be doing based on how you have been schooled? Do I know what they are being taught there? No. We are just speaking on facts. So some of you that will say, Papa does not have the right to say what he has to say. One day he has the right to his organization. That's why we are going to be looking at the dichotomy between the kingdom of God and the kingdom of the gods of men, if I would put it that way, because it's not just for you to ID for Geo to turn God. Very simple. Some of us now, it's as if we have sacked God from the church, or we have sacked Jesus from the church. We are now the ones that are the gods. But I'm not making any emphatic statement here. I'm just being logical about this whole thing because it looks weird. Not really weird, but also very interesting that this is now making sense to me as a person. I ordained you as a pastor. Maybe you are called by God, but you come under my ministry and you are ordained as a pastor. I checkmate you. I have standards for you, just like every church has standards. But the question we should be asking is, do these people or these pastors, especially the one that came out crying online, was he crying in front of, have you asked yourself a question, was he crying in front of the church if a church was built for him? Was he crying in front of the church, or was he crying in front of his house? You see, when you take away the basic amenities of man, food, shelter, clothing, especially shelter. It's raining outside now as I'm talking. Floods are happening right here in China and people are dying. Especially shelter. There is no reason why that man would not cry. He's a human being. Because if you look at the letter down there, it says that they have to submit and vacate the houses that are living or whatever that was given to them by the church. His shelter has been taken away. That is why I think that man is crying. That's why I think he's coming to appeal to our emotions. But you see, one thing that happens is that these are the same people that would be online, like you will see in the comments right now, defending and attacking and doing this and doing this. Why? Because that is where they feed from. That is where their source of livelihood is from. The church. That is the storehouse they are from. But right now, if you are kicked away from your storehouse, hey, that is when it dawns on you that one day I'm a human being, and one day blood is running through my veins. So are you understanding? Just imagine that you are for a fact, you are paid salaries. We are going to look at if this is about money or just winning souls, even though it still translates to money. But we are going to look at that in detail in the next video. Whew, I keep saying in detail in the next video, but I hope you guys can still would have. Can you handle what I'm coming with? Oh, hey, Chineke. Their homes right now are involved. Right now, they're going to be homeless. But the question is, if this pastor, that's why I keep asking people, please, is being a pastor a career? When you look at the Catholic Church, why is it that when you watch Nollywood movies, think about it. Why is it that when you watch Nollywood movies, when it comes to acting movies that has to do with between God and the gods of a land or whatever, they always use Catholic priests, especially in the village settings. But when it comes to the city settings, most of the time they use pastors, they use Pentecostals. Have you ever imagined, has it ever made sense to you? What is happening is Nollywood replaying itself. This is what I suggest. Looking at this particular church growth index, which I've explained to you in a miniature time, and looking at this particular 10,000 church planting alone in Nigeria, okay? The question is, this is where we just stop right now. So let me take you to something that I found in my research, which I want to ask you. Now, this is on their website, or would I say Winners Chapel's website. If you look at the picture I've been showing you, this is a picture from their website, which is their rural church building project. And then if you go here, it talks about the whole mission for, 10,000 churches to be built in the rural areas, and then 1,000 churches has already been completed, which you heard him talk about in the viral video that is going around everywhere. But if you go down here, I'm looking at the 100 capacity seats church. I'm looking at 20 plus million. I'm looking at the cost of constructing these buildings right now. And I'm asking myself, this will be linked, I think, maybe in the description section, but you can always find it on their website, okay? So right now, I think this is why I stay to do all of my videos. So I'm asking a question myself. I'm looking at this amount here, or this amount. The highest one is 300 seat capacity, 32 million. And these people are supposed to be in rural areas. Think about this yourself. Just be logical, or just think. If you are erecting this kind of structure, I don't know, I've never built a house before, okay? So I don't know how a 32 million or 20 million building will look like in a rural area. You see, when I was talking about priesthood and all that, I want to look at this in more detail later, but I can still talk about it now. And someone will say, oh, the difference between the priests and the pastors is that the priests already do have members. Sometimes, if you look at the days, how Christianity itself even came to Africa, most of these priests that came, they had to come and look for translators and all that for us to really understand the religion that are bringing to us, Christianity, which we all believe in. Except maybe if you're not a Christian watching me right now, I'm so sorry that I'm, pushing some buttons. But what I want you to understand right now is that, you see, for you to construct these kind of buildings or buildings like this that cost this amount in a rural area, are you trying to compete with other churches that do exist there? Because come on, Mountain of Fire will say, we have our own mission. Churches every corner. Redeem, churches every corner. And other churches do the same thing. Just imagine right now that you used to go to a church whereby there was no AC, and then someone comes to construct a church that has AC inside. Where will you go to? Yeah, Geneben AC now. So is this a competition that I'm seeing, or maybe they just want their buildings to be, world class? Because come on, right now, when it comes to churches, people like to go to where that is, standard, high-tech, whatever. I don't know if you understand. And these properties belongs to the church, which is the same thing with every other place. But when I was looking at this cost, I'm like 20 million. I don't know whether it's big, or you can tell me what you think in the comment section, because when I was doing my research, I was like, wait, at this point, let me just stop and just be real with these guys. No studio wahala. Let me just speak my mind based on what I'm seeing right here. 10,000 churches is amazing. But in rural areas, with this amount of investment, man, there's something really going on. Anyway, it's just my opinion, and see you in my next video. We have a lot of things to analyze, so I'm still working on them right now, okay? Bye-bye.